Okay, I noticed one thing. I get way too passionate when I talk about audio gear, so I don't think I will get through this in one piece properly. So let's just see that what it is, because actually I think that is one thing that most of you don't even know. But if I could, I would actually review way more headphones than I do smartphones, tablets, and all that kind of stuff, because it's listening to music that is my kind of first main true prime passion. And even though the Performance 880 is the very first headphone that I got from Ultrasone, I can already tell you that much. They know what they are doing, and I wanna review more from them. But before I'm starting to drift off even more, I would say let's switch to the overview and check what's in the box. The first thing to mention here would be this 3-meter long cable, and it is of absolutely nice quality, absolutely no problems here at all. It has a 3.5mm jack, but also comes with the included 1/4-inch adapter, so all is good here. But if you want to use these headphones mobile, on the go, you can do this because they're actually quite easy to drive, and therefore you get this mobile cable, which is 1.2 meters long. It also comes with a remote and a microphone. So all is good here, but that's still not all, because of course you get the headphones, but as you can already see, no pads here because you get 2 of them. The ones pre-applied are the ones out of leather, which as you can see are a little bit thinner than the ones out of velour. But I also have to get to one thing, what I'm not the biggest fan of, the way they are attached, because out of the box they are glued to them, as you can see here. And it was actually quite freaking me out tearing them off, because I thought I would destroy them. Nothing happened, but as you can see, there are some glue residues here still visible. But I wanted to just know how the ones of velour sound, and I will get to that in a quick comparison a little bit later on. But just as you can see, these are a little bit thicker. They are both pretty much the same size, so both comfortable. My ear fits in. I would wish for both of them to be still a little bit thicker. The ones out of leather even more so, because I would say the velour ones are just about thick enough. But let's get to the headphones themselves. As you can see here, they are very subtle, very elegant, I would say. The headband is, I would say, nicely cushioned, not maybe too much. Otherwise, it's mostly just out of plastic, even though the main frame, of course, is metal, and it maybe sounds a little bit not that premium, but of course if you have something rotating that moves, it just has to make some sounds. So this is fine. It mostly uses very, I would say, high quality plastic, because it feels quite flexible and very durable in my opinion. Also here all the rest, as you can see. So I would say I will just put them on, but just therefore I need of course some kind of cup so I can show you this. So just once after review I will definitely glue them properly on, but I would say let's just put them on and talk about the sound. What I want to go first into is the isolation, because with the leather ones you have a little bit more isolation, and of course the outside will hear you pretty much the same as they do with the velour ones. But with the velour ones I hear myself still a little bit easier than with the leather ones, but still quite muffled, so the isolation is absolutely still there. But about the main part when it comes to the 2 different kind of ear cups is what I want to get into now, because I would personally just because of that already go for the velour ones, because they are a little bit thicker. What I had a little bit of an issue, but that's something very subjective for me, something very personal. My right ear, pretty much on all, or let's say on very many headphones, starts to touch the driver, and that happened with the thinner ones after a little bit of a longer period of time using them. With the velour ones, which are just a tad little thicker, it was not really an issue, so that's why I would already prefer those. Of course, you won't get the issue in the summer that they sweat up so much, because they are definitely way more forgiving in that regard. It still gets warm your ear, but it doesn't really feel sweaty at all, and it never felt like it would be something not that comfortable over a longer period of time. But talking about the comfort, I have to say what they do is feel very comfortable on your head, because yes, they have a little bit more clamping force that some people might like, which is especially noticeable one on the leather ones, because then they press even more flat and your ears could touch. But I wouldn't say they are too strong in terms of clamping force. That's just something you have to get used to. But what comes with that is what I would like to call the near perfect fit. Because once you have them on, they don't move at all. They feel super secure. Everything feels right. Most of the weight feels here on the ear cups, not so much on the ear band, which therefore feels very comfortable. After a longer period of time, you will feel the weight of the headphones. Not really in a kind of negative way, but you just feel that you have them on. They are not headphones like the ones that you could just forget. You notice that you have them, but I have to say they sit just right and they feel very comfortable for a longer period of time. The ear pads are out of memory foam and they are just so perfectly to your ear, and they just sit absolutely right. And now I would like to call out the differences in terms of the sound or the sounding that you get from the ear cups, because what I used for the first 3 weeks were the leather ones because they came pre-applied and I just didn't want to break the seal yet. But I have to say, this is a pair of headphones that you need a little bit of a longer period of time to get used to, because when I heard them for the first like 2 or 3 days, I thought, I am not quite so convinced because they are very heavily colored, very sounded, quite a heavy bass, but a very great one, absolutely top notch, but the mids felt a little bit, let's say, watered down. But after getting used to that sound and listening for longer and longer to them, and after also the break-in time, I have to say the sound became something that I actually enjoyed so much, because the bass is super tight. It goes also very deep and it is quite heavy, but not too deep. The upper bass maybe is a little bit too thick, but not by too much. The highs though, once after a little longer period of time, actually got a little bit clearer. They got a little bit higher, because at first they felt a little bit too smooth, a little bit too filtered off, which they still are compared to something very neutral. But it's the mids that I would say could be a little bit more dominant. They are a little bit more subtle. But once, after like 3 weeks, I switched finally to the velour cups. I first of all noticed a noticeable difference, a significant difference in terms of comfort, because they are just nicer for longer periods of time, because they are even maybe not softer but just thicker and therefore a little bit nicer cushioned, and my ears didn't touch at any point of time, which is just something, like I said, a personal thing. But like I said, this comes with the comfort thing, which already on its own would have been enough for me to switch to these ones, but it's also the sound, because the bass maybe got a little bit weaker, but it is still super tight, super precise, and it actually feels a little bit more controlled now. But what it also came with is that the highs now feel even clearer, a little bit higher, like someone took a little bit of curtain off, and the mids also got a little bit better. So maybe this could also be due to me becoming even more so suited to them or used to them, and the break-in time was even better. But I have to say, now with the velour cups, the sound is super nice. I wouldn't call them maybe perfectly ideal for metal, because there I still prefer something way more neutral like my Sennheiser HD600s. But these, for mainstream music, or especially everything with a lot of bass, with dubstep, R&B and everything, or like even alternative rock that is a little bit slower, maybe not too many instruments, works absolutely great, and it was an enjoyment to listen to them. Yes, it's something very completely different compared to something like the Sennheiser HD600 that I have, and that's why I won't really compare them side by side, because I actually plan to do it, but they are just so different. I can't really call one better than the other, because these are way more V-shaped sounded, definitely colored, especially with the heavier upper bass. But especially if you listen to a lot of pop music or just mainstream music that is not too heavily in terms of using of many instruments, where it could get a little bit overburdened, or where you need the mids, like for example male vocals, those felt a little bit held back. But if you find the right type of music, which is absolutely easy to find because it's a very good all-rounder, you will get such a great experience, because it's a nice warm bass, super tight and precise though, as I said. The mids sound good. They could be a little bit more dominant, but the highs are clear. Like I said, ever so slightly smoothed off, but actually with the velour ear cups, this got even better. And I have to say, this is a headphone that you can use for hours and hours, because it never feels sharp or seems sharp, and you can just drift off and really enjoy the music, and this is what I did. But what I also have to actually say, what was very surprising for me, how well they were for gaming, and this is something that I definitely don't really talk about more kind of audiophile grade headphones. But what they have is a quite nice wide soundstage, definitely not as wide as, for example, on an open back headphone, but especially for games like CSGO, everything felt so big. What it came down along with that though is that you could hear footsteps and you could locate them quite nicely, but they weren't as pronounced as, for example, with some more gamer specific ones, because I heard the footsteps but I didn't hear them so loud as I did with some other headphones, because these are way more about the soundstage. But the location was very well, because these already kind of felt like some surround headphones. But I see I'm already at 10 minutes, so that's why I would say let's just get to the pros and cons. Here to be called out, definitely very good build quality. Replaceable cable, which is absolutely nice, because it's with this twist and lock mechanism, it works absolutely nice. We have rotating ear cups, which is quite nice, nothing that I really need. And we also get an alternative velour ear cup, which are included. Very good comfort, and the velour ear cups, due to even being thicker, is also a little bit better in terms of comfort. And in my opinion, this just leads to the close to perfect fit. We also get a nice wide, but definitely not too wide or very wide soundstage. We have a great, precise and dry, warm bass that I definitely enjoyed a lot. Really good mids. They could be a little bit better after all. That's kind of the weakness on a super high level, but therefore we have very good highs that are a little bit softened out, then surprisingly well suited for games. It is a quite good all-rounder for balanced sounding music, really nice, very satisfying for very satisfying sounding and great for long music sessions. It is just suited so much for mainstream music, but not everything is great. On the downside, I would have to call out, that in my opinion, I just have to say this like this, stupid ear cup mounting solution with the glue. That's definitely not an ideal solution because the higher end models use magnets. Then the slightly long plug that sticks out a little bit from the earphone itself, and then sometimes could be something that is in the way. It's not a huge issue, but something that I just wanted to point out. The clamping pressure could be a little bit too high for some, but I have to say, therefore, it comes also with the amazing fit. Then it needs quite some getting used to time. That is something that I definitely noticed, because after 3 days, I wasn't so convinced, but after a little bit longer, I definitely want more. Then the upper bass is a tad too heavy, the highs are a tad too smooth maybe for a few people. They are definitely not neutral, but that's in brackets because I don't think this headphone wants to be neutral in the first place. So that's something that I can't really see as a negative. Then good, but not ideal for metal, and it is expensive. And that is actually already one of the issues, especially if you live, for example, in the US, because the last time I checked, which was a week ago, the price in the US was at about $500. But since this is a German company, in Germany it costs like 300. So the difference is quite big, and therefore I can't really fully recommend them in the US, because I think there the competition is just way stronger in terms of also maybe US brands where it's a $500 headphone, and there you just get maybe even more so higher end or just better sounded buds or better for you suited headphones. But for what I can tell, in Germany for 300 I can definitely absolutely recommend them because they're high quality, the sounding is great. It's not neutral, but if you like this kind of sounding, it's a little bit warmer, V-shaped, but on a very almost audiophile grade level with a lot of details and a very precise pinpoint pressure, pinpoint precise bass and overall sound. I have to say these sound great, and for most of the music that I listen to, I will actually listen with these now, not with my Sennheiser that I like. These are definitely way better suited for metal. I just have to point out. Everything like maybe a little bit harder, faster, alternative rock or something like that with metal also will be just sound better. For me, example, especially on something like the more neutral Sennheisers. But these are just way more satisfying, way more impressive, and they have such a nice warm soundstage and all that. Yeah, that's all I can say. I don't want to drift off too much because I could go on and on like I said, but I don't think that's necessary. 30 minutes I think is good enough. If you like this review, I would say what you can do now is, of course, leave a thumbs up, subscription and a comment down there below. Otherwise, I'd say bye.